You're tuned in. To Stardom 100 Radio. What time is it? With your host, Tanisha Davis. We're the show that's keeping it all the way 100 with you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the heavily orchestrated, never duplicated lyrical symphony known as the Eternal One Eternity, aka Mr. Everlasting, the Lyrical Assassin, and you are tuned into Stardom 100 Radio. Let's go. Call security!
Yo, what's poppin'? It's the Young Lion, Sammy, and right now you're tuned in to Stardom 100 Radio. Keep it locked.
What's up, you all? You're tuned into Stardom 100 Radio. Today is January the 7th. It's a Thursday, and we have a really dope discussion on the way with me and a good friend of mine, Carmen Roxanna, and we're talking about how we've been dealing with the loss of our mothers. We both lost our mom last year, and so it's kind of been a really tough time for us, especially in the business field. So we're going to go ahead and let you tune in to the discussion, and be sure to follow Stardom 100 Radio on all platforms and share this episode and let us know how this made you feel. Hey, I'm here. What's going on?
I had to mute. I had a client calling me on this number. I guess that's the downside of having two phones. Call on the wrong phone. I could not answer.
Okay.
So my phone on do not disturb while we're on here.
Yes, I definitely had mine on there. And just welcome to everybody that's starting to join. I know this is a touchy subject, so hopefully we get some more people that can tune in. I'm going to go ahead and get started, just for those who may want to know who I am. And then I'll share a little bit about, what I experienced on last year. My name is Tanisha Davis, of course. I am the publisher for Femi Magazine. And I also host a podcast called Stardom 100 Radio. Last year, around October the 18th, I lost my mother, Sherelle Myers. And it's still, y'all see, even when I start talking about it, it changes my whole mood. But, it's been rough, kind of trying to deal with the reality of it. So, I was really happy, Carmen, that you said, let's talk about this. Let's come together and talk about this experience and how it's made us feel, especially for people who are in the business world, because it has not been easy at all.
Yeah, we touched base on that when we originally discussed doing this room, and I told you, for me, it seemed like that day was the first day of the rest of a whole new life. Because everything changed. My relationships changed. My business shut down. My kid, everything, it's crazy. It's crazy. You can't even really put into words how many emotions you go through in a day. But we'll get into all that. I want to still talk about your story, and I want you to not feel like you can't get emotional on this panel, because I don't know if you saw my caption yesterday, but I kind of warned everybody. Yeah, I know I'm gonna start crying at some point.
Yeah.
So that's part of one of our topics. We ain't holding nothing back. So go ahead. I wanna learn more about your mom.
Okay. My mom was outspoken. She was like a lively stone. Like literally, if she was on this call right now, she'd just be so loud and lively. You can hear, my mom was like one of those people, like literally you can hear her from a block away. She was going to make sure that everyone knew she was coming or she was in the building. Like, there was no entering a quiet room and just sitting down. She was going to come in, she was going to announce herself, and then she was going to ask everybody why they was being quiet. You know, so that was her. I used to, and it was so funny, like when I was dating and I had to take the guy to meet my mom for the first time, I would always like tell him like, okay, let me let you know, this is how this is gonna go. My mom's so outspoken, and so if there's something she wanna say or ask you, she gonna ask you. So I'm just letting you know up front. So and I love that about her. Over the years, I would always be like, Mom, don't say that. Mom, don't do that. Mom, you can't post that on Facebook. No, and she'd just be like, I'm grown. I'm your mama. I can say what I want to say. So now, as I've gotten older, I'm 36 years old. I'll be 37 next month. I actually look back and I'm like, man, I'm so grateful that she was like she was, that she was outspoken, because she didn't hold anything in. And I remember like when I was about 6 or 7 years old, she would always tell me, say what's on your mind, don't hold back what's on your mind, say what's on your mind. And of course, as you get older, you're like, I can't say that. Don't say that. Especially when you start getting in the business world, it's like, oh, if you say that, this could ruin a relationship or this could cost you some money. But my mom, she didn't care. She didn't care. She worked and she would tell her boss how she felt, and somehow she still managed to keep a job. But that's just how she was. And man, I will miss. And especially like she called my phone, and if I was busy doing an interview or whatever I had going on, she'd send me a text message and she'll say, I know you see me calling you. And I'll be like, Mom, I'm about to call you. I promise you. Give me a few minutes. And then when I would call, I'd be like, Mom, I was doing this and that. She'd be like, that's okay, baby. That's all right. I know you probably be doing your business thing. I'd be like, like you just got through kind of snapping on me in my, in the text message for not responding. So, so like I said, I'm gonna miss a lot of those things about her. And I can still I still hear my mom's voice, that's just how lively she was. Like, I'll never forget anything about my mom, and it feels like she's still here with me. And like I was telling you when we were talking, I find myself, I talk to my mom. If it's something like when Christmas came around, I was like, Ma, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to you. And Ma, this is what I'm doing right now. Or, even when I released my magazine, she knew about it, and she was excited about it. So when it released, I was just like, Ma, I did it, I made it happen, and so it's, the day that I got the call, I was actually driving on the interstate, and I remember I had one of my sister's coworkers call me, and she was like, they found your mom. And I was like, what? Found my mom, and when she said that to me, like literally, like I told the girl to get off my phone. Like I hung up on her, cause I was like, somebody calling my phone with this crap, about my mom. Like, what you call my phone with that for? And then my baby sister called me, and when she said it, that's when reality kind of clicked, like something's wrong with my mom. And I still wasn't taking the whole your mom's gone, like that message. I wasn't letting that sink in. I was thinking, okay, she just may not be feeling well, she's somewhere, I got to get to her. And I don't even remember, like I was telling you, Carmen, I don't even remember getting off the interstate. I don't even know how I left the interstate. I just like I was off the interstate. And I reached out to her husband. And when he told me, I was just like, okay, I got to get to my mom. You know, when he told me, I was like, no, I got to get to my mom. Somebody done did something to my mom and I'm on my way. So I'm flying across town because my mom was maybe like 20 minutes away from where I currently was. So I was flying across town. Like, you know those moments when you speeding and you're like, where's the police? Because they definitely, I guess, I don't know where they were that day because they didn't catch me because I was flooring my SUV through traffic to get to my mom's. And my mom had passed in her sleep. And she was still at the house when I got there. She was still in her bed. And the difficult part about it was the fact that the night that she passed, she had just got home from work. She was working at Amazon, the distribution center. And she was actually coming under my posts. Like, that was something she would do, like, with all of her daughters, because I have two more sisters, and I have two other sisters. I have two sisters. Y'all forgive me. I have two sisters, and I have a brother. And so she would always just get on social media and go through our pages and respond to us or comment or whatever we had going on. You know, even if we didn't see her that day, she would get on social media and communicate with us in some form or fashion. So that night around midnight, she was on my page commenting, she was hearting my posts, and I'm like responding. I was actually about to go to sleep, but I was like responding to her and hearting back. And so this is like a Saturday, well, going into Sunday morning. And I was like, I got up that morning, Sunday morning. I'm like, I'm going to go to church. And then I'm going to go and see my mom. I'm like, let me go pop up over there. I ain't seen her in a minute. I know she been working. So I'm going to go pop up over there. Because my mom was big on getting her rest. She didn't, don't wake her up out her sleep. So I was like, today I'm going to pop up. Even though I know she might get upset, I'm gonna pop up at her house anyway. So, it bothers me that I did not get the chance to see her, or sometimes I'm thinking like Tanisha, when she was commenting on Facebook around midnight, maybe you should have called her then, but so many thoughts have been going through my head, like how I could have went over there, because we get so caught up in our business life and what we have going on that we forget the little things. And that's something that I have learned since losing my mom. Like, those times when we so busy, oh, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, and my mom would always say, one day I'm gonna be gone, y'all. One day I'm be gone. And so that gets to me. I
totally understand that aspect of it. My mother was displaced from our hometown in Panama City a couple years ago. So a lot of people, if they follow me on social media, they remember when me and my younger brother, we kind of went on like an excursion, a Hurricane Michael excursion to go find my mom after the hurricane. So we found her and we brought her back to St. Pete, where I live in Florida, for a while. And my mom was so independent. It didn't matter how, and my mother, I'm going to talk about her in more detail, but my mother had health issues, but she was just super independent. So she was like, I don't want to live with y'all no more. I don't want to deal with this. She loved her grandkids to death, but she's older. She likes her peace. She likes her rest, like your mother. So
yes,
she packed her stuff and she moved to Gainesville. So my mother was by herself when she passed. And that is one thing that is going to haunt me for the rest of my life. Because I remember having conversations with her as a young lady and talking about my grandmother. My grandmother passed away when I was like 6 or 7. So I don't have too many memories of her. But I have the stories that my mother would tell me. And I remember telling my mom after she told me that my grandmother passed away, in her sleep, in her chair in her apartment by herself. I remember telling my mom, even as recent as last year, that you're not going to be by yourself. When she passed away, we were in motion, literally about to sign a contract for her to get a mobile home in St. Petersburg, just so we can get her back home. But when my mother passed away by herself in her sleep, laying on, and a lot of people tell you, oh, time, don't feel guilty, don't think anything, like, there's nothing you can do about the past. That's all true, but that shit is way, way easier said than done. Because like I said, that, amongst a couple of other things, is always going to haunt me, because I was too busy. The same thing. I just started the group. She knew I was about to get into real estate, so I was super busy, and then with the kids, and she was always so understanding about it. Hindsight, I should have. Gainesville wasn't that far. Yeah, it wasn't that far away. So, yeah, I feel you. I feel you when it comes to that.
Yeah, just this. That just, made me very emotional just thinking about it. Because it's those little moments, like, we just, and even though I know my mom knew I loved her, I know she knew, that I was doing a lot to make time for her, because I did have moments, like last year I took my mom for her first photo shoot. Just a little quick backstory on my mom. My mom grew up really rough. She grew up in Los Angeles, California. She was involved in, early, like 15, in a gang. She just had like a really rough life, and later on she ended up getting caught up in drugs, and that led to me and my siblings having to go through foster care. So, when we got a chance to get back with my mom, I was maybe like 6 or 7 when my mom kept me. And then we ended up going back into foster care when I was 8 years old. And so my mom spent time in prison for a very, very long time. And when she got out and I was able to find her, she was in Birmingham. And I remember just a lot of the times I was there with my mom, making sure my mom had ate, making sure my mom had got a shower, making sure she was okay. And that was like around 2009. I had just had my daughter in 2008. So I invited my mom to come back to Mobile to live with me, so she can get on her feet. And my mom was a very strong woman, because she didn't go to a rehab to get over her addiction. I really feel like I played a great part in helping my mom get over the addiction, because when she came to live with me, like I said, I had just had a daughter in 2008, my kid. And so I told my mom, I said, look, Mom, you can live with me. And I said, just make sure you don't do anything in this house over your grandchild. And I feel like my granddaughter helped her, because she was like, I'm not going to do nothing around my grandbaby. And she just transitioned. I watched my mom transition into, like, transform into this mother that I remembered, before the drugs, before foster care. I saw her just change. And she started picking up weight. She started working. She became so strong. And then the 2018, she was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. I was with my mom going through her treatments. I was by her side with that. So she did get to see me supporting her in everything, because she had been through a lot. The stuff that my mom went through, some people, and I'm not going to tell too much of her story, but she went through a lot, y'all. She went through a lot. And to to overcome so much and to leave how she did, that really bothered me. Because I was like, this lady was an example of strength. This lady was an example of strength. And like, we were just getting to the good parts. You know what I'm saying? That's how I felt like we were just getting to the good parts, you know, of having that mother-daughter relationship. And then she was gone. And she was nothing but 53.
I was just about to ask you, how old was she?
Yeah,
my mother was 58, and my grandmother passed away when she was 56. So it spooked the hell out of me first. But then immediately I just got angry. And that's honestly when my shift in spirituality happened. Because it wasn't necessarily that I questioned God or his decisions. It was still, I'm not questioning it, but I still feel like I was robbed of my mama. I'm only 32.
Yeah.
It only gave me 32 years. And it's like I've talked to my aunt, my mom's younger sister, a lot, and you know, she kind of would give me the backstory on my mom, because in just these 32 years that I've been alive, my mom has been sick for about 18 of them. My mom's been sick since I was in middle school. So when you talk about strength, like, that's exactly how I feel about my mom. Like, this lady was on dialysis. This after her first transplant was in, well, back to the history on my mom's health. My mother, she passed away from kidney failure and congestive heart failure and some other things, but those are the two on her death certificate. But she had her first kidney transplant from my dad, actually. He was a match and was her donor in like 2002, I think. And then kidneys only have a life expectancy. A donated kidney only have a life expectancy of 8 to 10 years. So pretty much on, I want to say it was like her 8th year anniversary, that kidney failed, and then she went right back on dialysis. So she spent the last almost 10 years of her life on dialysis. And watching her deteriorate. I remember the last time I saw my mom, me and the boys went to visit her not even 2 weeks before she passed. And when I saw her, I acted as normal as possible in front of my kids. And I excused myself. I used the kids as a distraction. And I excused myself from her apartment. And I went outside and I fell to pieces. Because my mom didn't, them pictures I posted on Facebook, my mom didn't look nothing like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I was so scared. I remember I called my boyfriend and I called my sister. And I just told him, I'm like, yo, I'm so scared. Like, and I was trying not to speak it into existence. But it was like, that was where reality hit me. Because dialysis, it changes your physical appearance drastically. My mother was super dark. Her skin looked like leather. She had no muscle mass. I remember sitting on the couch and telling her, I'm like, Mommy, you are skinny. And I grabbed her arm and it wasn't nothing but bone. And it was a couple times. I even went to the grocery store for her. That was one of the last things I did for her. I went to Publix just to get out of the apartment. And I'm in Publix, walking down the aisles crying, trying to get stuff off the list, talking to my best friend because I was so terrified. And when we left that day, my son, my oldest son, that was like his best friend. He was so upset. He always got upset whenever we would leave her. And he was like, Mom, when we coming back? And I was like, well, we're going to come back next weekend. And she was like, okay. And she asked him, she was like, well, what do you want me to cook? Because my mom was a cook and a good cook and an excellent baker. And he told her he wanted a chicken pot pie. He wanted to make some homemade ice cream. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, your grandma going to take care of that because you know I don't cook. I don't do none of that. So she was like, okay, she told him, I'm going to go get the stuff and y'all go come back and that's what we're going to do. And we didn't come back that weekend because I had an interview.
Mm.
And she passed away the next week.
Mm.
And after I told, my son was there, which I'll tell that story, but when I had to explain to my son what happened, my biggest fear was that he was not going to get upset with me. I literally remember saying, like, I hope my son don't bring up that we were supposed to go back and see her. Yeah. I was so scared. And when he finally did, he was so understanding, because you know how kids love that he understood and he didn't hold it against me. He's never brought it up again. But when we went to go clean out her apartment a couple days after that Sunday, she had all the ingredients for the chicken pot pie and the ice cream in her freezer.
Wow.
And that just...
man.
I feel like the biggest thing that I struggle with since I lost my mom is guilt.
Mm.
Like, I should have did more. Gainesville is not that far.
Mm-hmm.
I should have gotten the car more often. She didn't ask for it, but I should have did it. Like, I knew. But I never wanted to think. No, I don't even know why I didn't think I would ever see the day that my mother would pass away, as sick as she was. But I still didn't see it. That shit was still a shock.
Mm. Still
a shock. And it's so, like, you're always going to think there's so much more you could have done or you could have said, but, like, it ain't shit you can do about it now. Yeah. But just, I guess for me, my mother wanted to be cremated.
Mm-hmm.
So we divided her ashes. So for me, physically having her ashes in my space is what gives me comfort.
Mm-hmm.
So like you said, I still speak of my mother in present tense. I try not to speak of her in past tense. And I talk to her ashes like on the holidays, like she's there. So, oh man, see, I told you.
Yeah, I had to pause earlier. Like, it's so fresh, you know, for me, you know, and it's touchy because I still, even though I went to the funeral, because the week of my mom's passing, I had a photo shoot for the magazine that I had already paid for. My mom knew about me going out there to California on the 21st. So my mom passed on the 18th, and I had to be in LA on the 21st. And when I got back, I had missed her wake, because by the time my plane landed, it was past the time. So I was already just a wreck. When I got there the day of the funeral, we had a graveside service. And when I walked up and I saw my mom, I just broke down. Because I was like, lady, you really gone? That's what I started. I kept saying, lady, are you really gone? Like, you know, you really here? You know what I'm saying? This really you? I kept asking myself that over and over, because I was like, how could a lady who has been through so much, I've watched my mom fight, you know, through domestic violent relationships. I've watched my mom overcome drug addiction. I've watched my mom, you know what I'm saying? It's so many times I saw my mama fighting and battling. And even when she had to go do her surgery behind the breast cancer, you know, she was still even in the hospital bed, she was lively. She was like, you know, she was taking pictures and posting it on Facebook with us. And, you know, so I was like, how is this possible? And I was just like, I'm asking God, like, really? Like, how do you know, like, how? And her report said that she had some fluid around her heart, so it was just heart failure. And but I was just like, how? You know, even when I talked to her husband, I said, what happened? What, you know, like, did she show any signs that so? He said no. He said she got off work, sat down, talked with me for a little while, took her shower, and got into bed. And I'm like, how? You know, and sometimes I have my mom, so I'm like, God, why my mom? You know, and not that I wanted it to be anybody else's, but I'm like, God, mine? Why my mom? Because, you know, this has been hard. This has been so hard, because now I think about, like, when I need someone to keep my daughter, you know, my mom is not there to do that no more. I don't have her to go to no more and say, Mom, can you get my daughter? Or, Mom about to pop up by the house. Mom, what you doing? You know, whenever I'm dealing with things or going through something in my personal life, I don't have that anymore, that I can just hop in my truck and say, let me go over there. I'm finna go sit with my mom because I could talk to her about what I'm going through. I don't have it anymore, you know, and that's been hard. That's been very, very hard.
Yeah, we gonna chop it up for a second, because I'm gonna let you get it together, because I can hear you over there.
Yes.
So I'm gonna go ahead and introduce myself. I mean, everybody that's in here right now already knows me personally, but for the people that are gonna be listening in the future, I am Carmen Roxanna Harris to the real world. I'm a journalist, and I'm the CEO of Unwritten Media Group. I'm also a realtor in the Tampa Bay, Florida area. My mother, Charlotte Regina Harris, God damn it. I don't even like saying her name like that. It's like, damn, I can't believe I'm used to hearing people say her name, talking to the doctors and shit. But my mom, she passed away July 31st of 2020 to kidney failure and congestive heart failure. She was 58. Her 59th birthday was just December 13th. Absolutely horrible day, but I made sure to have a couple words with her and keep it together as much as I can. But a little back history on my mom. She grew up pretty much a military child. Her and my grandmother, it was just them two for a long time. And my grandmother, she went from base to base, and she have boyfriends and meet these different guys and kind of cast aside my mom. So she didn't have the best upbringing in regards to being loved properly, being taken care of, you know, things of that nature. So she had it rough in a little bit of a different aspect. She has 4 kids, so I have 3 siblings. I have an older brother, an older sister, and a younger brother, who have all watched my mother start from having migraines when I was about 6, 7. I remember my mom always saying she has migraine, and always taking medicine for having migraines, and always having lay downs because she has a migraine. And then it progressed to blood pressure, and her having to go to the doctor all the time because she had high blood pressure. And then eventually her kidneys failed back in don't quote me on these dates, y'all, but I want to say it was like 2001, 2002. I was in middle school when her kidney failed. And like I previously mentioned, my dad happened to be a match, so he was able to be her kidney donor for that. About 8 to 10 years is the life expectancy on a donor kidney. So in that time frame, that donor kidney failed, and she was back on one and back on dialysis. So she's been on dialysis, I want to say, since about 2012, if I'm not mistaken. And it's just been a downward spiral, really, ever since then. Like I also mentioned previously, when she got displaced after Hurricane Michael, that really was the beginning. In hindsight, that was the beginning of the end. Obviously, being displaced because of a storm and having to do dialysis as frequently as she had to every week, she ended up being in the ICU quite a few times down here in St. Petersburg, and when she moved up to Gainesville. And once she got to Gainesville, it was just a shit show. I know my brother told me after she passed away that he told her at one point that if anything ever happened to her, to sue the hospital. And when he told me that, it made sense, because when she got to Gainesville, it just seemed like, I don't know if the doctors just felt like this was a black lady that already had so many pre-existing conditions. There's nothing we can do for her, so why put forth the effort? These people didn't return her phone calls. They didn't fulfill her requests for things. Even when it came to COVID, they just tossed my mother around like a rag doll. And with her being in Gainesville and all of her children, with the exception of one, being in the Tampa Bay area, it wasn't easy for us to get back and forth to be with her all the time. So like I said, when my mother passed away, she was by herself, asleep in her apartment. And I'm never going to forgive myself for that, because I told her that I did not want that to happen for her. I did not want that to be the same situation that my grandmother had. And I feel like I let her down. I feel like even like what you were saying when it comes to all the success, that she got to see the beginning of it,
Mm-hmm.
but she's not getting to see you revel in it. And it's the same exact thing with me. When I did coverage at the Super Bowl last year for Unwritten Media Group, that was my company's first coverage ever. My mom thought that she was going and telling her dialysis techs. She used to show these people my pictures and stuff, and I'm like, Mom, like, these people don't know me, like, well, they don't give a damn. But she was so proud of me, and even people that know me, I don't really brag on anything that I do, but I only felt it was a big deal because she felt like it was a big deal.
Yeah.
And for me to be walking into so much more great things in my life, professionally and even within my family, and she's seeing it from afar, like, that's not enough. I feel like I took too long to make this progress in life, and maybe it was one simple decision I could have made 5 years ago that would have changed the trajectory of my life and would have enabled me to be able to take care of my mother like I should have.
Mm.
And I say I should have because I can't speak for my siblings, but that's how I feel. So that's another thing that weighs heavily on me, is she did need to be taken care of. At the end of her life, she had been in rehab twice because of her losing so much muscle mass, and they were on the verge of having her in a wheelchair. So she was going to need different accommodations, and it was going to get to a point where we were going to have to intervene. And like I said, we were just about to sign a contract to get her into a mobile home in St. Petersburg so she could be close to us. And
man,
anyway, I was supposed to be telling you about what happened the day I found out. So this what happened. My mom does dialysis, so her dialysis schedule was Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, and she went at I want to say she went about 9:00 in the morning. She went in the morning. This particular week was significant because it was the week that her mother passed away. Her mother passed away July 27th. My dad's birthday is July 25th. Her best friend passed away July 29th. and then my mother ended up passing away July 31st. So it already was a weird week, a significant week. And I had spoken to my mother that Tuesday. The week she passed was the Tuesday, the week she passed was the last time I spoke to her. And we were talking about me calling her doctor to ask about CBD treatments, because my mom knows that I smoke marijuana a lot. And she didn't have any feelings about it. But, I always harped to her, why I do it and the benefits of it. So she understood. And I, presented to her, well, maybe if I looked it up already, there are CBD treatments that can help, with fibroids, because she was dealing with those. She was dealing with hemorrhoids as well. Like, she had a lot of other ailments in addition to the kidney failure and the heart failure. But the last conversation we had was I was going to call her doctor to talk about some CBD treatments for her. And I didn't talk to her again that Tuesday, and I called her that Wednesday, and she didn't answer the phone. So all of us, all the siblings and my aunt, we're used to her. Sometimes she won't answer the phone because when she gets out of dialysis, she's drained. So usually on dialysis day, she's asleep, or she leaves her phone. Like, she's not like us, or like me rather. I take my phone everywhere I go. If I gotta use the bathroom, I'm taking my phone in the bathroom.
Yeah, me too.
My mom would do that. So she would leave out the room and her phone would be somewhere else and she wouldn't answer the phone. So I didn't think nothing of it. She didn't answer the phone. All right. So Thursday rolls around and I'm like, well, damn, she didn't even call me back. All right, let me call her again. So I called her Thursday morning. She still didn't answer the phone. I still, for whatever reason, didn't think nothing of it. I was like, all right, I'll try her again Friday morning because, maybe she's tired from dialysis. So Friday the 31st, I woke up and that was the first thing I did was call my mama. She still didn't answer the damn phone. So I'm like, all right, I called my younger brother, who is her favorite. She never wanted to admit it, but that was her boy. I called my brother. I'm like, hey, have you talked to mommy in the last couple of days? Because she ain't been answering the phone. He was like, no, I haven't talked to her since about Tuesday or Wednesday. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll hit you back. Called my sister, my older sister, and I asked her the same thing. She was like, no, but I texted her yesterday, and she texted me back. And I was like, so you heard from her? She was like, yeah. She was like, she texted me yesterday. So I'm like, okay, I feel a little bit better. So I call her again. She still don't answer the phone. So by this time, it's I want to say maybe 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning that Friday. So she's not answering. So then I called my aunt, and I asked my aunt, have you talked to mommy, if anything's going on? She was like, no, I haven't talked to her. I've been calling her, but she hasn't been answering the phone. So I'm like, okay. So at this point, I'm like, let me call dialysis, because she can't not answer their phone calls. So I call her dialysis center, and the nurse tells me that my mom hadn't been to dialysis since Tuesday, and it's Friday. And anyone that knows anything about dialysis and having kidney failure, you can't miss dialysis, ever. So I'm like, okay. So the lady proceeds to tell me that they did a welfare check on her that the day before, the morning before, that Thursday morning. And she said the officer went out there, knocked on the door. He said that she responded. It sounded like she was far away. She responded that she was okay and told them to go away. That I believe, because my mom absolutely would have done that. So I'm like, okay, well, if my sister's saying she got a text yesterday and y'all did a welfare check yesterday, why the hell is she not answering the phone? So I'm like, I told her dialysis place, I'm like, all right, bet, I'm on my way. I'm coming to Gainesville to get my mother, and I'm going to take her to the emergency room. But this was also the summertime, so I had my kids. So I ended up having to get my kids and my dog in the car and head to Orlando to drop my children off first and then shoot over to Gainesville to get to my mom. So it would have took me a little bit longer. So I called my younger brother and I told him what's going on. He's like, don't worry about it. I'm able to get off work. I'm going to go straight up to go get mommy. So I said, okay. So I'm still on the road going to Orlando because when I get to Gainesville, I got some words for her too. Like, why you not going to dialysis? You know what I'm saying? So I'm still going to Orlando to drop my kids off. So about an hour or so goes by, and my brother calls me, and he's like, I just pulled up to the complex. I'm going to go knock on the door. If she don't open the door, then he has a key. He was like, I'll just go in there. So I'm like, okay, call me back. He calls me back like maybe 2 minutes later. And I kind of immediately knew something was wrong. Because to me, you going to go see mommy, if she opens the door, you're going to engage in conversation with her. So you're not going to call me back immediately.
Mm-hmm.
So when I saw him call, and I'm driving on the highway, just like you, I'm driving on the highway. He calls me back, and all he said was, she's gone. And I'm like, what? He was like, she's gone. And he's like whispering it. My brother is 29 years old, like 6'3", almost 300 pounds. The deepest voice ever. And he was like whispering it. Like, he's like, she's gone. And I just lost it behind the wheel. So all I really remember, I remember beating on my emergency lights because I knew I had to pull over, but I'm like flipping my windshield wipers. I'm like just hitting shit, and my kids are in the back seat, like looking like, my oldest was like, Mommy, are you okay? And I'm like scrambling with my phone, like, bro, it's just a fucking blur. I'm just like, no, and I just kept, eventually I'm like, why did you do this? Like, it was like I just got angry instantly, and I just started like beating on the steering wheel. I remember, and I'm like, why the fuck did you do this? Why the fuck did you do this? Because in my head, I'm thinking she gave up and she decided not to go to dialysis. But, you know, as time progressed and we spoke to other family members and did some investigation, that's not what happened with my mom. She was still going to treatments and stuff like she was supposed to, but she just passed away in her sleep. But doing all of that, I remember I rolled over. Somehow I ended up on the ground, in the grass, on the passenger side of my car. And my kids are looking at me through the window, like in tears, screaming, crying, because they don't know what the hell's wrong with me. And my dog is in the car too, mind you. So it's just a whole fucking scene. So eventually I get back in the car, and I sat there for a second, got myself together, calmed my kids down, and I just turned the music back up and just started driving. So as I'm driving, of course, my kids are sitting in the back seat looking like two deer caught in headlights. And eventually my oldest son got the courage enough to tap me on my shoulder to turn the music down. And he just said flat out, he was like, Mommy, did something happen to Mama? Because he called her Mama. And I told him. Because one thing about me, I'm super, super transparent just in real life. But I'm like that with my kids too. So I don't sugarcoat things. I don't, give them a child perspective of things. My oldest is about to be 10 and my baby is 5. So of course my baby didn't quite understand. But my oldest son, of course, he was going through it for a while. But I told him the truth, and he went through his emotions, and it was just, it was so crazy because I am a disabled veteran, so I get a disability check for PTSD, depression, anxiety, and sexual trauma. So I already had issues that my mother helped me with prior to her passing away. So no one ever thinks about how they're going to react when their mom dies.
Right.
Nobody thinks about that.
Right.
So when it happened to me, I was afraid that I was going to go off on the deep end and not have my main therapist. Like, she can't help me out of this. So I just remember talking, like, that was when I really started to get into spirituality, because the crazy story, I bought some waist beads from a girl on Facebook the day before my mother passed, and I didn't know nothing about waist beads. I just seen girls on Facebook at the beach with waist beads, and I thought they were cute. So I hit the girl up and was like, I want to order some waist beads. And she was like, okay. She put them together. Like, she didn't even really ask me what I liked, what colors or nothing. She just took the order and finished it up. So I went and picked up the waist beads, and everything she had on the waist beads were already elements of my, like, already things that I had around my house. Like, she had the hand of Hamza on there. She had a rose quartz angel on there. And I asked her when I picked it up, I'm like, how did you know that you know, I have stuff like this around my house? She was like, I don't know, it just resonated with me. And I was like, okay, cool. Mind you, I don't know nothing about spirituality at this point. Mm-hmm. Like, I believe in God. That's pretty much it. Like, I never really was that involved in religion or anything of that nature. So I was like, okay. So I put the waist beads on, go to my sister's house, showing off my waist beads. Oh, my sister's like, I'm going to place an order too. I want some, blah, blah, blah. Leave my sister's house. And then that Friday morning happened. My mom passed away. And I said, like, a week later, I ended up calling that girl that I got the waist beads from and pretty much thanking her, because it was in that moment, or in those moments, those following days, that I realized that those waist beads tapped me into something internally that brought me peace. And it didn't take away my sanity. Because like I said, like, I already see a therapist at the VA and a private therapist. So I already have life things that I've been dealing with before losing my mother. So I easily could have just went off the deep end. I probably wouldn't even be doing this panel right now. Unwritten Media Group probably would have, that LLC would have been down the drain. It wouldn't be no real estate license. Like, that really, losing a parent is a perfect excuse for people to throw their life away.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I say, by the grace of God, she definitely plays a big role in keeping me together. But those waist beads, those damn waist beads, those waist beads, I swear, they saved me. And they are what put me on a spirituality journey that really brings me a lot of peace and a lot of comfort in not feeling disconnected from her, and being able to talk about her without breaking down. Because I'm actually surprised this whole entire time I've been talking just now, I haven't cried. So, see, I just firmly believe that there's power in the stones. We'll talk about that later on the sidebar.
All right. I know we have some others who, Chrissy and Hannah. Did you all want to join in on this conversation?
So, I'm Hannah. I do just have one small thing to say. Thank you for inviting me, and I'm a friend of Carmen's. And I promise I do not. My intention is not to sound insensitive with what I'm about to say. I really hope that it can offer you some comfort with your experiences. She and I have had a similar conversation once before, and I'm just going to share this on the panel and hope that it helps anybody who's listening. But I can't, pretend or imagine what it feels like to experience the loss of a parent, or to even have gone through some of the experiences that you guys have gone through. But on the other side of that, my husband, who obviously I'm very close to, he lost his mother when he was 13. And so she has not been here to experience our almost 15-year relationship journey. She was not there for our wedding. She hasn't seen either of our children. She hasn't been here to watch the amazing things that her children were able to accomplish in their adult life. And so the way that she passed was very traumatic. She didn't pass away in her sleep. She passed very traumatically. His last memory of her is her on a ventilator in the hospital when he was 13 years old, and his oldest sister had to make the decision to pull the plug. So I say all of that to say that the experiences that you guys have had with your mothers are so amazing, and it's so meaningful to keep those experiences close to your heart. And although they did leave you, early on in their life, and they were not old, and we're not old. I'm around the same age as both of you. We still have a lot of life to live, and unfortunately you guys have to live the rest of your life without continuing to be able to experience your mothers. But try to just really think about all of the positive experiences that you guys were able to share. And Tanisha, I think you shared that your mom, she did get to have some experiences with your daughter, and you think that your baby kind of helped to save her and helped to remove her from some of the negative situations that she was in. And Carmen, I know that your mom loved your boys, and so it's just such a blessing to even have had the experiences of your parents or your mother experiencing you as a mother or your children, because unfortunately there are other people too who have had similar experiences. They've lost their mothers early on, and unfortunately for them, their mothers were never able to experience their children. So although it's a very traumatic experience, and although it's very difficult to deal with, sometimes in grief we have to shift our mind to think of all of the positive, because realistically those individuals that we love, we still love them, and they still live in our hearts. They're still with us. They still, we can still feel their presence. We can still feel their spirit. We can see them in our children in some cases. And I know that's one thing that brings my husband so much comfort, is he watches our daughter, and it's like so many things remind him of his mother. And so we do a lot in the community just to bring awareness to some of her struggles. We also do things to try to let her light continue to shine. And we make sure that even though she passed away almost 20 years ago, about 15 years ago, we don't, she's still here. We know that she's with us, and we do things so that her legacy will continue to live on. And I just hope that gives you guys some comfort, because your mothers, they are here. They are with you in your hearts and in your spirit and your family, and even in your surroundings. I mean, I can look through my house and see all the things that remind me of his mom, and I feel so close to her, even though I never even got to experience her. So I hope that brings you guys a little bit of comfort. I'm sorry for your loss and your experiences, and I could not imagine what that feels like. So I will keep you all in my hearts and my prayers, but I hope that brings you a little bit of comfort.
Hannah, you are
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. I actually have to ask you a question.
Go ahead, friend.
And we talked about this before, with him losing his mother so young, and how I've explained and Tanisha's explained, we're older in our grief journey, but it seems like our success is peaking at the loss of our mothers. Do you think that he can attribute to his successes, your family can attribute to your successes because of her?
To a certain extent. So I think that him losing his mother at such a young age, just to give you a little bit of backstory, his mom and dad they were very, very, very deeply in love. His dad was very, very intelligent. He had a full ride scholarship to FAMU. He went to FAMU, and he wanted to come back to be with my husband's mother. And so he came back. They got married, and they started to have my husband's siblings, and then he came along. But they had a very toxic relationship. It was physically abusive. It was verbally abusive. It was very toxic. When they were good, they were good. When they were bad, they were bad. And there were also drugs involved at many points in the relationship. And so my husband's siblings, his two older sisters, they lived primarily with his grandmother, and then he lived primarily with his mother and father, and then his baby brother lived primarily with his grandparents, because my husband is the darker of the four children, and he looks exactly like his father, whereas the other three look very much so like his siblings, or like his mother. And so they remained with his grandmother while he remained with his mom and dad, and then with his mom when his mother and father separated. And so he had the most memories and the most experiences with his mom. She was the closest person to him. He was a mama's boy, like, to the core. And so he really had to learn how to kind of be a man very early on in his life, because when things went left with his dad, he became the man of the household with he and his mom. They lived in shelters together. She went through rehabilitation programs with him, and there were times where she was doing really well, but he still had to kind of maintain his lifestyle as a child. So he learned to iron really, really young. He was taking the bus across town when he was 6 and 7 years old. I mean, things that I could not imagine. You know, living in my white privilege, coming from a two-parent household, like, there are conversations I have with him that just rocks me to my core, because I couldn't imagine that for myself or even for my children. And then I look at my husband and know those were his experiences. So coming from that, and then being 13 years old, already living through all of these experiences, and losing your mom and having to watch her on a ventilator, it, like, sends you into a shock like none other. And he will say that he was mute for months after his mom passed away. Like, he would still associate himself in certain environments, but he would not speak. Like, he wouldn't. It was like he didn't know how to grieve. He didn't know how to cope. He didn't know how to deal. He couldn't cry, because, you know, little black boys, they don't cry. So he just became this hard, this tough person to crack. Like, he had this hard exterior, and even though he had so much love inside of him, it was like he never allowed anybody to get close enough to him to love him, because he was so fearful that they would leave him the same way that his mother did. So, you know, going through those experiences now as a teenager with no real level of support. Again, his dad wasn't around. He had his grandmother and grandfather, but he eventually became a ward of the state. His grandparents had to take him in, but he never had any real structure. So if you fast forward through his teenage years and then to his young adulthood, he had no idea how to really be this man that he should be for his future family, right? Or just in general. And so he became a product of his environment. He was in the hood. He was doing stuff he had no business doing. And eventually it caught up with him. And he and I started dating when we were very young. I was 17. He was 19. And the first day that we were together, I thought, I will never see him again. I can't stand him. Like, he's too much of a tough shell to crack. Like, this is just not going to work out. And so we left each other, and within like 30 minutes of us leaving, he was texting me how much he missed me, and he can't wait to see me again, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, that's like straight game, but we'll see how it goes. So the second time that we were together, I learned a little bit more about him, and I fell completely in love. And I knew at 17, like, I'm going to find a way to make this work, because there's so much inside of this man that he's like that's not resonating with him. There's so much inside of him. He has so much love to give, so much life to offer, and so much that he can do through his experiences and through the power of what he has inside, that like we need to figure out how to like get through this. And so that started the journey of our relationship, but it also started the journey of his transition into, you know, really becoming an adult and living in his adulthood. And what I will say is that my husband didn't fully like transition into this I mean, he's always been an amazing human, but he didn't transition into like the person that he is now that I wake up to every single day until I had my daughter. I feel like when we found out that we were pregnant, we had, you know, prayed, we planned, we asked God, and we knew that it would happen when the time came. And then when we found out she was a girl, it was like he felt like he was getting his mom back. And oh my gosh, so then when she was born, it was like I saw this, you know, when you can see like a twinkle in somebody's eye. It was like he finally felt fulfilled. Like now he has a purpose. And although he was still, you know, he was growing up through the transition, and he was really becoming an adult, and he was learning to understand his emotions and unpack his experiences, he never really got a handle on it until my daughter was born. And so now she's 5. She's named after his mother. She's very, very much like his mother. She asks a lot of questions. She's very inquisitive. And I think that his transition of becoming a father and wanting to be the best parent that he can be and make sure that the legacy of his mother continues to live on, I think that is what flipped the switch for him. I know it was always there, but I think losing somebody so young and experiencing that trauma at such a young age, and then having no real guidance to be able to unpack the trauma, you're kind of just like floating. You don't really know or understand what's going on or the way in which it's even happening. And so I think it took a lot for him to get to the place that he's currently in. But I really do believe that it's a combination of my daughter. I think it's growth. It's growth. It's development. It's self-love. And I know now, like right now in this very moment, I know that our family, his children, and the legacy of his mother fuels the things that he does every single day on a daily basis. So the short answer to your question is yes, but the shift didn't happen until adulthood, because there was a long stretch in his, you know, teenage to young adult years where he didn't have a freaking clue. And even with me and with our relationship, it came to a point where he told me, you know, throughout, and I'm very transparent about some of our experiences in our relationship, but you know, there were times where he always had one foot in and one foot out, and it was like I knew that he loved me. I knew that he would do anything to continue to be in a relationship with me, but there was just certain things that like we could not crack, we couldn't figure out. And ultimately we ended up having a conversation, and he said, I am so afraid to like love you with everything I have inside of me, because the only woman I've ever loved left me. And so I've never put myself in a position to allow a woman to love me, because I'm too afraid that I'm going to lose her. And so he always kept me at, I hate to say kept me at arm's length, because he didn't, but it was like I said, one foot in and one foot out. We were in a relationship, we loved each other, but I knew that he wasn't all the way in. There was still something there that I couldn't get out of him, and I didn't know why. And it wasn't until we had our daughter that it was like that gap was filled, you know. And nobody will ever replace his mom, and no one will ever try to. And our daughter, she can't, you know, take on the responsibility of replacing a grown man's mother. You know, that's not even a legitimate claim. But she does help to soften the burden, because there's this tiny little human that resembles your mother in so many ways and so many experiences. And she's, like I said, she's also named after her. And so it's our responsibility as parents to make sure that our daughter knows her grandmother, even though her grandmother isn't here. And those are the reasons why my husband goes so hard right now. But it wasn't until he could recognize like his fear of losing love and his fear of losing somebody, until he could recognize that, he couldn't grow from his experience.
Wow.
Chrissy, you got something to say, baby? I was actually going to call you.
Yes. Hi, ladies. I'm at
Hi.
work, so I have to wait in between patients. Last time I had a few in the room with me, but just like you all, I am a motherless child, and I have been for quite some time. And I know I've reached out to Carmen, and I know it may sound like I say, you know, just keep pushing, but
There is no conversation. There is nobody. There is nothing that can replace that. So there's nothing that I can see or to give anybody except for to keep your head up and keep moving forward. Because it doesn't get easier. Holding conversations might ease the moment, but when that's all done, you still remember all that pain that you had from losing those parents. Now, you guys may have only lost your mother, but my grandmother raised me, and she died when I was 14. My mother was on drugs really bad. And I had a father in my life who was probably not my biological father, but took care of me my whole life. So he took care of me with my grandmother. My grandmother raised me. Her death was actually harder than my mother's death at 14. They gave me counseling. She went through hospice. She died of cancer. So I was able to recover from that because it's been so long ago, and I've grew and I've learned things. At 18 years old, my mother died. She died of cancer as well. However, unlike you ladies, I took care of my mother and my grandmother. They both died in the same room with me. I shared a room with my grandmother when she died. I shared a room with my mother when she died. You guys are a little different because it wasn't expected and mine's were. So please don't hold that against yourself, because even with taking care of them, I still feel like it was something that I should have done or could have done, or even, it's just, you will always have that empty feeling because those people aren't there. You'll find ways to blame yourself when it is truly not your fault. Whatever happened was supposed to happen the way that it was supposed to happen. And I hope that I never offend you, Carmen, when I tell you, you just got to keep pushing, babe, because no conversation, no other relationship, nothing will fulfill that of a mother. It just does not happen. And I say about my grandmother raised me, but my mother always lived with us. She stayed with us everywhere she went. She was out there. She was on drugs, but the best mother. My grandmother made sure that I don't care what condition my mother was in, that is still your mother. Under any circumstances, disrespect is not tolerated. The love was there. My mother was around. She had her issues, but she was there for us. I lost my dad at 21 after my mother died at 18. So I've been without anybody for a very long time. My sister took me in when I was 14 after my grandmother died, and my mother came and stayed with me and my sister too. She just always came with, I hate to say it, but not that I hate to say it because it was a good thing. Wherever I was, she was coming. I was the baby of 3. It's a 13-year gap between me and my sister, and a 9-year gap between me and my brother. So wherever I was, she was coming. And if things weren't going right, she was raising hell about me, and everybody knew it. So it's been a while, but I tell you, nothing eases that pain. Every day, every moment, I think about it, and if I'm in that zone, not a conversation and nobody can help come from that. My sister stepped in and raised me when I was 14. My mom came and stayed with us for a little while, and then my mom ended up getting sick. We got a hospital bed, put her in a room with me, we shared the room. I wasn't there when she took her last breath. I happened to be at my daughter's dad's house, and my sister called me and said, that it was just, she had left us. Very, very hard. My sister is the closest thing that I have to a mother, grandmother, anything. I joke with her and tell her she's my kid's grandmother, and she hates that, but it's the truth. There is nobody I can call on. If my sister don't answer the phone, I have nobody. My aunts are so distant. Ever since my grandmother passed, there is not one of them that I can pick up the phone and call. My sister is it. There is no higher. My kids don't know any grandmothers. They don't know any grandfathers on my side. They don't know any of that. All I can do is take them to the gravesite and try to keep their images alive in the house and, and stuff like that. But there is absolutely nothing that can replace a mother's love, that yearning for your parents. And my best advice to anybody is just, how do you eat an elephant? I tell it to anybody. One day at a time, one bite at a time. There's nothing that will cover for them. I mean, nothing. And my mama had her faults, but baby, that was my mother. And I am my mother's child to the T. Minus some of the crazy ways she had, but I am my mother's child. Everybody sees it. Everybody knows it. You'll never get that back. There's nothing you can get back. However, my grandmother was my sole provider my whole life. My mother was there, but my grandmother was like a bigger loss, I hate to say that, than my mother, because that's all I knew. My grandmother took me from the hospital. My mother was on drugs. I was a crack lady. I hate to say it, but it's the truth. However, I'm the only one in my family that has done something with themselves, got a college degree, you know, made something out of themselves. So I never let my story be the end of what happened to me or what I went through or what my upbringing. If anything, it sharpened me. I've watched my other cousins and family members who had it all handed to them on a silver platter, and they can't stand up today on their own. So I like to say everything was for a reason. Had my grandmother, mother, and father still be here, I'd probably be just as sorry as the rest of the people in my family. But it's not the case. Their deaths did something to me and to make me a stronger person. Everything happens for a reason, and I do mean everything happens for a reason. It doesn't feel like it in that moment, but it's a reason behind everything. And, you know, I just want to send some strength and love to you ladies. I know it's hard, especially not feeling like you could have done more, been there. It won't change the feeling. You could have been right there in the room with her, holding her hands. You're still going to feel that pain of what else could have happened or what else could have that I have done to prevent it or to know sooner or to, you know, get extra help. You're going to always question that. You're going to always question that. Nothing is going to, all those answers are never going to come to you at all. But yeah, so if you ladies just keep your head up. It's not easy at all. It's many days. I have a good relationship with my husband's mother, but that's not my mother. I like her. I love her. That's not my mother. Their grandmother is not my grandmother. I can never get another father. I can't. Those people are gone, and I hold those standards very high. Nobody can replace them. I'm not looking. I'm not asking. You can fill in shoes around the other places, but not those three. I hold them very high and dear into my life, even with them being gone. My father was probably not my biological father. I'm almost 100% sure. He took care of me. He loved me. He showed so much love to me and my grandmother and my mother. He did not play about her. His family, however, hated me. And they didn't even tell me that he died. And I know this is not about fathers, but it's grieving parents. They didn't even tell me that he passed away. I had to hear it from my best friend, Marissa. Carmen, you probably remember Marissa.
Yeah.
Her mom called me and said, you know, I'm sorry for your loss. I had no clue what was going on. It was crazy. They didn't give me any information to the funeral. Supposedly, he was an elderly man. He was 91 when he passed. I was 18, so his family never was fond of me or my mother. If it wasn't for my brother's dad being a funeral director and they happened to go to him for the funeral services, I wouldn't have known where it was at, when, time, anything of that nature. So, I mean, I promise you, all of that just turned me into a different kind of woman. With every loss, with every turn, I think that it was just ironing, sharpening iron, because they have really pressured this diamond, and it's only made me a better person. I will tell anybody my story. I'm not ashamed of where I came from. I'm not ashamed of the circumstances I was born in. I made it out. Yes, my mother, my father, and my grandmother are gone, but I'm here, baby, and I'm going to shine for them, you know, one day at a time, ladies. Nothing is going to replace them. I ain't met a soul or a conversation that can ease that pain. Talking makes it feel better for the moment, but I don't know anybody that can cover, or a conversation that would be like the conversation I would have with my mother. It just does not happen. So I'm going to send some love to you ladies, and I enjoyed listening to you all, but I am at work, and like, come on, yeah, so you guys
Thank you.
You're welcome. It's never easy, but, you know, we're going to get through this. And I promise you, it does not feel like it makes sense right now. But after, I'm 32 now, my mother left when I was 18, all I can do is keep my head high and keep moving forward like I know she would want me to. And she didn't play that crybaby stuff. She would tell us at a party, this ain't no funeral. Get up, let's handle this. We're going to move forward. We're going to have fun. If anything, I try to remember moments like that, rejoice in those type of situations of how my mama would have carried on. Or I'll be at a party, and if my cousin's there, I'll try to imitate how my mom used to dance or something like that and keep the party going and stuff like that. Because that's what she would have wanted. That's how she liked to live. So, you know, just stay strong, ladies. You know, with time, you'll be able to cope better. But it doesn't get any better. Sorry, ladies.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't get any better. But you'll find better ways to try to cope and try to live. You know,
Right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
About to go work time, girl. Don't go ahead.
It's all right. I say those words, guys. It never gets easy, Carmen. And I hope you have never taken that lightly, offended if I've ever told you that, because that's the only thing that I know. And that may have not been the best coping mechanism for me, but it has made me stronger.
Girl, when I tell you, like that, you were one of the first people to offer advice to me after I, made that post about my mom, and it's stuck with me since then because it's the absolute truth. I was just talking to somebody about that yesterday. We're coming up on 6 months. My mom's been gone, and just yesterday I was telling somebody, like, man, if I'm in a mood, girl, it's even to a point, y'all, I've scrolled past my own friends making posts celebrating their mother's birthdays.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't want to like it. I don't want to love it. I don't want to see it. And I've had to question myself and speaking to you, because I know you spoke to me about this too, as far as being open with how I feel about stuff. And I've checked myself in those moments, and I know that I have the right to feel that way, as messed up as it may sound when you vocalize it. But I have the right to feel that way. So I've been listening to you, child.
I know it's not easy, man. That's such a hard pill to swallow, and it just definitely doesn't get any easier for anybody. But like I said, that was just the way that I found to cope with it and to move forward with. It's just, I got to keep my head up. My mama wouldn't want me down like this. I gotta be comforted in knowing that I did the best that I could do. No matter what that I could have done differently, that does not mean that the circumstances would have changed. If I could have got there sooner, or if I could have, what was going to happen was unfortunately going to happen, and we have no control over that. No matter how much we try, pray, you know what I'm saying? The most we can do is stick together after one of our friends or somebody has witnessed that, and that is completely normal for you to scroll by and see those posts and stuff. Like, I just can't do. I don't want to even deal with this today. That's completely normal, Now,
one thing I want to ask, because you were younger, and Hannah, your husband was younger as well. And Latifah, please chime in. Please speak, sister, if you have something to say. But I want to ask, because we're going to change the topic real quick. When it comes to your outside relationships, like your friends, I wouldn't say co-workers, but like people that are part of your day-to-day, what was or if there were any shifts in the relationships that you had once you began grieving? Because I know as an adult, me and Tanisha both.
Yes.
You have a lot to say in regards
to
how did you cope with that being younger? Was that even something that you thought about, or was that even an issue for you?
No. I want to say with my grandmother, it was really hard. Like, they had got me some help with some hospice counselors. I had started seeing them and doing some counseling with them, but it really didn't affect my immediate circle. My sister and I gained a greater relationship from it, and even my mother as well. And when my mom died, I'm a clingy person, so my daughter's dad and I, we were like locked away for like 2 weeks. She died in the house that me and my sister was staying in, so both of us left the house. Nobody wanted to stay in it, and as soon as the lease was up, she moved. But it brought us closer together, and honestly, that's when I conceived my daughter. I always said, you are a grieving baby, because I was locked away and I was hiding from people. So it was the only way that I knew just to get myself together and separate. However, I'm like the biggest mom advocate. If one of my friends is going through it, their mom, no, I'm not talking to her. Oh, you better call your mama. You don't get another mama. And they hate that. They be like, Crystal, not today. I'm like, listen, I'm telling you what I know. We don't get another mother. So I'm like the biggest advocate. They're like, oh, it's my mama's birthday, but I'm not going. You go. You will apologize. They be like, here go Mama Krista preaching. Not your mama, not your parents. You don't get those relationships again. Right. So I don't care how mad you are at her or anybody that's close to you in that. That my friends hate it, but I'm like the biggest mom advocate ever. Like, I don't care what she did. She's like, oh, they can't talk to me like that. Yes, you can. That's your mama. Go talk to her. You know, they be like, that's not an excuse. It most definitely is, and you never realize that until it's too late. So I try to advocate for everybody around me. Like, don't do that. You're not gonna get another chance with your mom, bro. You gotta name.
Latifah, did you want to ask me?
I'm sorry. What you said?
Oh, I think it's cutting out. I couldn't hear anybody talking. Finish talking.
Oh, it's okay. It might be this service in this building that I'm in. But yeah, I just turned into a big mom advocate and just drew everybody that was around me in closer, more so than pushing people away. Right. So that was a way that I coped. Yeah.
So for me, dealing with it as an adult, it kind of is a different spectrum because I had my mom from infancy until adulthood. So I kind of went through the whole journey with her, and then I lost her. So that lost feeling is coming at 32, and that within itself is awkward because when I say I feel lost and I feel like a child, like a motherless child, like I literally envision myself just standing in the middle of the street searching for my mama, like, and I'm 32. Yeah. So that feeling for me was so traumatic, and I'm a clingy person too with my friends and my family. So for me, when my mother passed, my friends were on my trail the most on that Facebook post, and that was it. Wow. There were people that I spoke to every day, and I'm not even gonna get into the business of saying names and stuff, but there are people that like I was building a relationship with, my kids have relationships with, that literally dropped off the face of the earth. Even to this day, I've spent the majority of these last 5 months by myself. And then it took a while for me to realize that I needed that isolation because I needed to grieve in isolation. But I wanted so bad for my friends and colleagues to be clingy on me. And I guess that's me expecting people to think like I do. And I know you're not supposed to do that. But in my situation, it seemed like my relationships deteriorated. And I've spoken to a couple of people about this, and someone made a point to tell me that they felt that could be because when you confide, or when I confided in my mother while she was here, she only could see as much as I could see, and she only knew as much as I told her. So when it came to people in my life that I liked, I'm going to tell her the good things, and, you know, mom's being a mom, she's going to be with that. It wasn't until she transitioned and she is now all seeing that she is she's guiding my steps, absolutely. And that's part of why I asked Hannah about your husband, and do you think that his success in life has anything to do with her, as in the sense of her being that guardian angel and, you know, taking away the people in my life that mean me no good, who weren't genuinely there for me, kind of like revealing, and in her revealing that to me, I'm looking at it as my friends aren't being supported. So that's kind of how I looked at the situation, and even now, I still look at it from a different perspective. I don't feel bad about it, like my friends abandoned me. I look at it like, you know, this is just how I was intended to go through my grieving process. But I wanted to know if, you know, Tanisha or if anyone else has experienced that in any capacity. And we don't even have to just talk about mothers at this point, because I really wanted to touch base on understanding the grieving process for each individual person, and how moving forward, even for us, we can be better support systems for people that are grieving. So I want to know if anyone else has experienced that.
I know, like I was telling you before, my experience is pretty much similar to how yours was. When my mother passed, we had a lot of people. I had a lot of people on Facebook commenting and so forth like that. But that was about it. And I'm very big, you know, my dad is a pastor, is my foster dad, but I say my dad. but my dad is a pastor. And I remember, you know, like all the stuff that I've done in the church, you know, I'm part of ministry. I do a lot of things in the church. To not have the support from my church, like, no, I had one member to give me a card. One member to give me a card. They didn't come to the funeral. I reached out to 2 of the members that were a part of the choir, and I asked them to come sing at my mom's funeral. And no, they didn't respond to it. They didn't say yes. They didn't even respond. I didn't get a call. Nobody came to visit me after the funeral. You know, these are people, I'm talking about people that know where I live, got my phone number, my direct phone number, right? Talking about like my business, up to my direct cell phone number. Did not pick up the phone to come by and see how I was doing. And I was taking it very hard. Like that experience with the church, I was like, you know what? I told my dad, I said, Dad, this has nothing to do with you. Doesn't mean I'm not supporting you, but I can't come there. Because how do I stand and smile in the faces of people who didn't even think enough of me to come to my mother's funeral? We not saying this is a cousin, this is a friend, a grandma, granddad, anybody, and everybody matters, but this is my mom. This is my mother, the lady who gave life, like birthed me, and nobody from that church came to support me or be there for me. And a lot of these people that call themselves my friends, or they say we family, didn't call me. Did not call me. And that right there, that did something to me. That has been bothering me since last year. Like I said, my mom died October 18th. That has been bothering me since, because these were people who they get on my page and they say all these kind words and act like they love me and care about me, and none of them came. No, like the only support we had, a little support from like people trying to donate to help with the burial for my mom, like on her dad's side of the family. But even still, like people that from my adopted family did not come through for me like I thought people would have, and that's been a big issue for me. Like I'm still bothered. I know it's 2021, but I'm still bothered by that.
No, I'm huge on it. One of my best friends is completely against funerals. Hate everything about a funeral. Will not attend her own family's if she can help it. But if anybody in our friendship circle or anybody close or to her that I know of or anybody else, she like, I can't do it. Just go to the wake. Show your support in some kind of way. You don't have to go to the funeral. You don't have to go show some type of
yes.
It won't kill you. My mother-in-law father died last year around this time, and he was from Pahokee, Florida. It's about 4 or 5 hours away, and none of her kids went. None of her kids were going. I told my husband, you cannot let your mother attend that funeral by herself. He said, Crystal, we won't make it. By the time you get off of work, by the time we get there, it's going to be over. You know what? I'll cancel work. We'll go up there. She needs some support from her side. We drove 4 or 5 hours to wherever this funeral was to go and give my mother-in-law that support. You don't leave people hanging like that.
Yes.
Because I've went through so many losses at an early age, I know that. Maybe people who are leaving us to, grieve on our own haven't experienced losing people that's so close to you, so they might not know how they should help handle that situation. But anybody I'm around and somebody close to them died, I don't care if it's my best friend, great cousin, uncle removed. You need me to come with you? I'll come to you. You need anything? No family need anything? But I think that has a lot to do with the losses that I took early to know the difference. You know what I'm saying? So that there's no excuse. You need those people to step up and show up in times like that.
Now, Crystal, you were there. You remember when Peanut passed away? So prior to my mother, I don't think I even really told anybody this story, but prior to my mother passing, my mom knew who Peanut was. When I went to the military after we graduated, my mom gave me a guardian angel necklace to protect me while I was in basic training. And I believed in it. And I named the guardian angel while I was in basic training. I talked to him like it was Peanut. I never told nobody that. Peanut was the most significant loss I had ever experienced as a teenager. I had never lost any family. That was like, I had just seen him. And as a kid, a lot of us, like I said, you were there. So when Peanut passed away, that was a big deal for a lot of us. And the way we all rallied around each other at 17, 18 years old was crazy. Like, even our Caucasian classmates, like, we really came together, and that was just a classmate. So for me to be a grown woman and to be having this type of issue when it comes to support from other grown people, to me is a little astonishing within itself. Like, I just don't, and I understand, which is why I want to talk about this and make sure that we all understand and can voice, you know, our different ways of dealing with things. Because me and Tanisha talked about this previously, and we're both in media. So, you know, when I was with Baller Alert and Hip Hop Weekly and On Site, every other day I'm writing articles about somebody dying. Literally. Every other day I'm writing an article about a celebrity dying. And we'll be sad. The whole world is sad that day. 2 days later, either somebody else done passed away or we done not really forgot, but it's not at the top of our mind. So in dealing with the passing of my mom, I guess I expected everyone around me to feel the same grief I felt for my mother, even though my mom is not their mom. So I was telling Tanisha, it was like, we're all guilty in a sense of not being as supportive, or, I mean, when it comes to like celebrities, there's really nothing you can do about it. But when it just comes to forgetting, you don't forget that your mother passed away. You don't forget the time you found out. You don't forget what you had on. You don't forget the date. You don't forget none of that. But other people got their own shit going on. Other people got lives, kids. That's not going to be, your mother passing away is not going to be on the top of people's minds the next day, unfortunately. And coming to reality with that, I guess, was the hard thing for me. Like I said, now I'm completely content with it. I understand that I had to go through that process alone. But initially, you know, that's how I felt. Like, there's no way in hell somebody close to me, even if it was a stranger, if they told me their mother died that day or like that week or something, I would be making sure that they're mentally okay. Simply because I know what I go through mentally, but even just because that's your mom. Like anybody, regardless of the relationship you had with her, that is your mom. You only have one damn mom, literally. So I just could not fathom how people could walk away. These people didn't call my phone at all, and it was like just 48 hours ago we were texting. And I'm like, I probably would never really understand it unless I actually like spoke to these individual people and asked the question, and I probably never will. But it's like, there's some people who grieve and want to be isolated, like you said, Crystal. Then there's some people who grieve and want to be coddled. I wanted to be coddled. I was like hoping somebody would call me and be like, oh, do you need me to cook for you and the boys? I know you feel like,
yeah, I felt the same way.
Come get the boys because I know you need some time to yourself. Like, man, I didn't get none of that. I still had to be a fucking mama. I still had to be Carmen Roxanna. I still had fucking business. I had money to make because I got bills. Like, I still had to move on with my life. And I hate saying move on because I'm never going to move on. You're never going to move on. But it's like you still have to live. Right? Man, I just could not fathom how anyone would walk away from somebody knowing how devastating that is. That's not your ordinary loss. Like,
yeah.
I just, so there's so many different ways that people handle grief themselves, and then you have some people who are awkward when it comes to somebody passing away. Like, I know I've been in situations where I've been around someone and they got news that someone passed away. And I remember how awkward that is. because you don't know what to say. But I also know that I didn't stop talking to them
Right.
after they found that out.
Right.
So some people, that might scare them away. Some people, it brings you closer. I guess I'm one of those type of people where tragedy brings me close to people. So, I mean, someone who's or did they probably do understand why people would separate themselves.
I guess everybody have their own coping mechanisms. They might not be the best. I try to respect everybody, but at least show me that you're there in some kind of way. You don't have to be there every day. You don't have to bring flowers or a food or a dish, but it's ways you can reach out to have your presence known. You know what I'm saying? So it's never an excuse. It's ways around things.
Yeah, that's like for me. I mean, something you can do something. If you're not doing nothing but texting, you may not just send something to let them know that you're there for them during that time. And for me, you know, and I'm like how Carmen said, like as a business professional, like I still had to keep working. I still had, things that I had to do in spite of how I was feeling. And I had people that were pissing me off, and be honest. I had people that was pissing me off that knew my mom had passed and was like, can you check this email? Can you respond to this? And I wanted to say, really? You know I just lost my mom, right? You asking me about an email right now? Like, so.
Give you credit for even staying in business.
Oh, that was hard.
I think like 2 days later, I made a Facebook, Instagram, Twitter post everywhere, and I said, I shut shit down. Don't even inbox me. Don't ask me to write no bio. Don't ask me to listen to no songs.
Man.
I couldn't do nothing for 2 months. So
I
even applaud that you had more mental strength in that capacity to
I took like maybe a 3-day break because I had writers that were trying to, ask questions that needed, like I had my editors that were needing assistance. And I was like, dog, and this is around the time that I'm getting ready to publish the premiere issue. And so I'm like, I got to do this. Like I had to push. And I really feel like my mom, I could hear my mom just pushing me like, come on, Tanisha, come on, come on, you can do this, come on, because that's how she would have been, if she was here, she would have been like pushing me, because that's how she was. Even when I would tell my mom to stop, like even the last job she worked at Amazon, I told my mom, I said, Mom, you just got through coming through chemotherapy. You don't need to be working no hard job at no Amazon, throwing no packages or all this stuff. I was like, no, you need to sit at home and rest. And she was like, oh, thank you, baby. She was like, you don't want mama to take the job? I was like, no. And my mom made a post on Facebook. She was acting like she wasn't going to take the job. My mom made a post on Facebook telling some on my way to work at Amazon. And I was like, no, you did. You did. She was like, I'm good, baby. I'm fine. I got this. I'm strong. I can do it. And in so many words, like she was telling me I'm not weak. Like, she was like, I can do this, So I felt like she was really giving me strength to get through that for that time,
I just wish, in hindsight, I kind of wish she waited a little bit. Like I used to, in the beginning, I remember when, like a couple weeks after my mother passed, I remember sitting my sister down and giving her a disclaimer. And I said, this is probably going to sound weird. And I said, but I still be talking to mommy. And she was like, no, that's not weird because I do that too. And then I talked to a couple friends on Facebook who also lost their parents, and they've said that they do that. So I've gotten away with saying things are weird, but I just wish that even though she was as sick as she was, I wish she held on a little bit longer. And it sounds so selfish. But I'm still trying to wrap my head around just the timing of things. I think it's so significant, like with Hannah's husband and with Crystal, and them being young, and I really feel like in hearing their stories, like their mothers becoming their guardian angels are what propelled them to be successful in life. Because I honestly, now that I've joined the club of people or adults without parents, a lot of them are, in my eyes, successful people. And then I know people whose parents are still alive. The majority of the people I know whose both parents are still alive, they, not to discredit them, but they live like fairly ordinary lives. But the ones that I know who have lost someone significant in their lives, they tend to be, they have something special about them. They exceed expectation. They do a little bit better than others. So with me and Tanisha and the timing of us losing our moms in comparison to how Crystal and Hannah's husbands, how their lives have changed, it's like everything happens for a reason, but still in the back of my mind, I wish she held on so that she could see these things. She was so excited about Dyson. My oldest son, Dyson, turning 10. Like, she talked about that all the time. Like, he's about to be a decade. I cannot believe he's about to be a decade. And then she started texting me his baby pictures that she still had in her phone. Like, she was so excited about it, and I just can't. And even sometimes looking at him makes me emotional because I'm watching him grow, and she was there. She was pretty much my baby daddy throughout his whole life. She did more for him than his dad did. So it's like I'm now having to watch him grow up without her, and she didn't make it to at least his 10th birthday. Like, she was so excited about that. So the selfish side of me wishes that she would have held on, but I know her holding on, she would have been in pain. And it's so much to reflect on after the fact.
Yeah.
You bless sis, because my kids have never met, or never will meet a grandmother, grandfather, anything of that nature from me. So take those 2 years and remember that and rejoice in that your son was able to spend those great 2 years with your mother, and the bond that they shared was out of this world. Because I wish that my mother could have just laid eyes on one of my children. You're blessed. It doesn't seem that way, like at that moment, but sis, your mother was able to be there and be with you and your child. Just embrace that in itself.
I completely agree with that, but I do have a question for you, Carmen, and Tanisha, for you too, because you're saying, you guys, you experienced quite a bit of your sphere not supporting you through the loss of your mother. So it has that, how has that impacted the way that you continue relationships in your life? You think, gone through that is helping you to determine, who has a place and who doesn't, and is kind of guiding the people that deserve to be there in, and guiding the people who don't deserve to be there out? Or how do you feel like you're dealing with the relationships in your sphere after you've experienced the loss of your mothers and those people were not supportive of you? Does it make you go into other relationships differently? Like, how are you coping with that?
I can honestly say I haven't been approaching any of my relationships since any different than I have, because everybody that knows me knows how much of an open book I am. So, I'm not, honestly, quite a few of the people that I'm referencing when I speak to friends and colleagues are people that I have I actually reached out to and just told them how I felt. And they were receptive, and they all apologized, with the exception of 2, but it doesn't matter. You know, at this point, because like I said in the beginning, I was offended by it. I was hurt by it. I didn't understand it. And a part of me still doesn't, because I would never do that to someone else. But in all these months of being in that isolation and grieving my own way and giving myself time, I realized that they didn't do that intentionally. That's just how the chips fall. I strongly believe that my mother is guiding me in everything that I do since she transitioned. Since that day, I strongly believe she has her hand in everything that I've done. So even when it comes to relationships, the women that she's put in my life, the men, even my dog, girl, you saw, if you all were on my Facebook, I was trying to get rid of my dog not too long ago. Even my relationship with my dog changed since my mother passed. So it's like, I feel like I said previously, she's all seeing now. So she knows who is for me and who's not. So she's pretty much being a filter for me. I don't have to do anything. I haven't really had to put forth too much effort in any of the relationships that I've built since then. These people have gravitated to me. And everyone that has gravitated towards me have been beneficial people, have been healing people, have been people that I can relate to, people I can have a conversation, like just excellent people. And all of the ones that I ever questioned have gradually fallen off as of January 1st, 2021. So I've completely put my faith in just knowing that I'm on a different journey, and that my mom is up there between my mother and the Lord. They're both guiding my steps, and she's weeding out the bullshit. So I don't worry about my relationships anymore. I go into all of them open-minded and open-hearted like I always have. And I just know that eventually, if they're not supposed to be around me, my mama's going to get rid of them like she did in real life.
For me, the experience has changed how I communicate with a lot of people. And this is speaking to people that I thought were super close to me. Like, I haven't even opened up and talked to these people at my around the church about this. Like, I haven't even told them yet, because I don't know how it's going to come out when I say it. But it allowed me to see who really cared about me for real, like who really genuinely cared about me. And these are people that, like I said, they have my phone number. They'll call me and invite me to speak on something. They'll invite me to come support an event, but couldn't pick up the phone for this and couldn't reach out to me for this. So that has changed a lot with me, and I'm not so easy to trust people like I was. I'm not so quick to call somebody my family, how we refer to our friends sometimes, like this is family. I'm not so quick to do that no more. And it really opened my eyes to understand why my mom was like that. You know what I'm saying? Like she wasn't this person to take too quick to anybody, because of the things she had experienced in life. So sadly, behind this, that's when I discovered, like, you can't just jump up calling everybody family, everybody this, and feeling like everybody love you like you think they do, because times like this will really show you where you stand with people, and I gave no room for excuses, and I'm just speaking how I feel, I gave no room for excuses. Like, there was no excuse for somebody that had my phone number or knew my address to not stop by and check up on me or reach out to me, and even if you couldn't show up at my place, send me some flowers, send a card. A card is 50 cents. You could have sent a card or something. So it has changed me. I'll be honest. And it's going to take a lot of prayer. It's going to take God to really get me over that, because I know that, you know, in church you're always taught about forgiving people. Forgive and let it go, you know, forgive so you can heal, you know, but this is a tough one for me, and I'm struggling with getting over that experience.
Can I share my story?
Yes. We'd love to hear from you, Latifah. Go ahead.
Okay. So, with me, my mom, she passed away when I was 6 years old. So, after she passed away, she took me and my older brother in. So, me and my older brother are 7 years apart. So she took us in, and she raised us, and I can remember the funeral. And I remember everyone else, we did the funeral, we got to the burial, and I remember everyone else got out of the car but me. And a voice was telling me, like, you know, just get out, just face it. And, you know, I didn't get out the car. I was too scared. I'm like, you know, I'm not getting out. So, you know, I never got out. But I did see, like, when my mom passed, I did see the shift in, like, family members. And even, like, close people, you know, that knew my mom, I saw the shift. Like, you know, even sometimes with holidays and, like, sometimes my mom's birthday and things like that. Like, I don't know, like, my family members will act, you know, a little different. And I know for me, it took me about maybe a good 24 years to really fully allow God to really heal me from my mom's passing. Because I carried my mom all throughout childhood, you know, when she passed up until, like, my adulthood. And it affected a lot of relationships that I had with different people. And it affected relationships I had with myself, other women. So, you know, for me, like, I will say, just allow God to heal you through the grieving process. And don't rush the grieving process. I know for me, like, when I got into my early 20s, like, that's something that I did. Like, I rushed it. And I didn't allow God to really, like, come in and, you know, really, like, make me whole until when I turned 24 and I was in college, and I rededicated my life to Christ. And that's when the healing process with my mother's passing, he began to really, like, deal with me with it, because for so many years since she passed, I never fully grieved her properly, and I was never fully, you know, shown how to really grieve her properly, you know, just from other family members and different people in my life. And I would really, you know, sit and be like, you know, why me? You know, why is it happening to me, Lord? You know, why don't people care? You know, why don't people understand? And for years, I was angry with God. Like, for years, I'm just like, you know, everyone else has their mother. You know, they can, you know, call their mom on the phone. They can go shopping. You know, I don't have that. You know, why? And he was like, I did that for a reason. And he was like, you know, he really had to explain to me, like, I didn't do that. You know, that was something of the enemy when, you know, parents die, or, like, you know, you just lose someone really close to you. And I was like, okay. So, you know, like, I had to really, you know, just really allow God to really make me whole in that area. And I'll honestly tell you, like, it was tough. Like, it wasn't easy. Like, I cried, like, a lot of times, you know, through the process, you know, and I was still, you know, just really angry. And I was like, God, why don't people understand? He was like, well, it's not really for them to understand because they haven't gone through it yet. He was like, and it's not really that people don't care. They really just don't really know how to comfort you the way that I want to comfort you in the process of losing your mother. Like, you know, and I just know with me, like, sometimes when you do lose a parent, people don't really know how to react to you, or really don't know how to help you with the grieving process, or really to cope. So, like, I definitely understand where you guys are with the grieving process, and, like, how angry you can, like, it can really make you, because, like, people really don't care. Like, it's people that you think would care, and they really just don't.
Right.
And I look at it from a perspective, you know, that God exposes the heart of those people, you know. And I'm just like, okay, Lord, you know, like, you know, since my mom's passing and things like that, like you're exposing the heart of people I thought that not only cared about me, but I thought they cared about my mother. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, you know, I don't want, you know, those people in my life. And he was like, okay, well, I'm not going to allow them, you know, in your life, but you also have to set boundaries with people too, because I know for me, like, a lot of times when you tell people, you know, you lost a parent, they're like, oh, you know, I'm so sorry for your loss, but like they really don't know how to act around you. And like I always tell people, I'm like, I'm a woman just like you. Like, just because I've lost a parent, that doesn't make me less of a woman than you, because you may have your parent that's still alive, but like I'm still a woman. Like you can still come to me and talk to me. Like the only difference is I lost my mother, and you know, you may have your mother, but you know, I just really really thank God, you know, just for the healing process, because I can remember like years back, I would never share like me losing my mother with my friends. Like, there was a lot of close friends that I had that I would never share that part of my story with people, because I would be like too ashamed, and I'd be like, well, Lord, I don't think people are going to get it, so like I'm not going to just talk about my mom. Like, I would never, like, you know, talk to anybody about it, you know. And I can only really thank God that I'm really like actually able to, you know, just share that piece of my story with people, because a lot of the times, you know, people always say like, don't tell your business, like, you know, don't tell people certain things, but I'm just like, I don't really believe in it. I really believe in transparency. So I feel like if I have a story that God has helped me overcome, you know, why not share that with other people? But like, I just really wanted to share that with you guys. And I do agree, a lot of the time people who do have parents, they really don't understand, like, when you don't have a parent, like it's a certain, the way I look at it now, like it's a certain battery that God literally puts in your back and literally push you to keep going, because you don't really have a choice to really give up or stop. So, you know, you don't really have like a physical parent to really lean on. All you really do, you know, all you really have is God. So like, I know for me, like I push, you know, myself really hard, because like I understand, you know, and I know people who grieve the loss of parents, you know, especially a mother, you know, it's that process is hard in itself, and it's just a little different than the other grieving processes, and, you know, just different people that you do lose. But like, you know, I really just, you know, push myself. I'm like, you know, I can't give up, you know, like I can't stop. You know, I know my mom, you know, she wouldn't want me to give up, you know, she would want me to keep, you know, just pushing forward. And like, I really honestly, when I went through the grieving process, and when I do have my moments sometimes where the enemy will have me feeling sad, like I really, you know, just really lean close to God. Like, that's literally the only thing, like, that's literally keeping me together, because I know, like, if I didn't have that, like, I would be, you know, just really messed up. So like, I just really, you know, wanted to share that with you ladies. Like, I don't know where everyone is in the grieving process, but yeah, like, allow God to, you know, to really heal you, and, you know, just allow him to continue to show you different people, you know, who really just don't have your best interests at heart, and, you know, who really don't care for you. And just really know, like, he understands more than you think he does, and he understands more than people do. Because like, people really don't understand things unless they go through them. So like, a lot of times we're looking for like support from certain people, and we don't really get that, because like they don't really understand. They're not in our shoes yet. So like, me too, I'm really big on, like, you know, women working it out with their moms, you know, like, that are living, or like just their parent, because like I understand, you know, like I know, and like, you know, I just tell like people, you know, just cherish your parent, because you don't know, one day when you can wake up and you can be in my shoes. You know, I wouldn't want that, you know, for anyone. But, you know, just losing my mom, it definitely has made, you know, me a stronger woman. It definitely has pushed me, and it has definitely made, you know, just my relationship with God, like, even better. And like, I really, you know, just encourage other women, and, you know, advocate, you know, just for other women, because like it's very tough, you know, a lot of the time, especially if it's fresh. And even if it's not fresh, it's tough. Like, you do have your days where it's just like, I'm just like really not feeling this. But, you know, when I do have those moments, I just really, you know, just lean close to God. And, you know, I express my feelings to God before I go to people. That's something that he definitely like taught me to do during the grieving process, to come to him when I would feel certain type of ways, because I know, like, sometimes going to people, they really can't help, because, like, I'm talking to you about it and you could sympathize, but you really don't understand because you're not in my shoes. But, like, I just wanted to encourage you ladies, just to keep on going, just continue to, like, push forward God, and just allow God to really process you. Like, it does get easier day by day. It doesn't go away, but it does get easier. Like, God will literally heal the wound, so that when you speak of your mother or someone brings something up, you're not feeling any type of way. Like, I know for me, like, when someone brings up my mom, I don't feel any sadness or anything, or like any anger or anything like that. It's just like, I look at my mom here physically, but I know, she's looking down on me, she's watching me. But, I just really just felt really led to, just really, say that, like, really build, your relationship with God if you haven't done so. Because, like, that's literally the only thing that will, like, literally push you forward and, like, will keep you going. Because, like, I know for me, like, that's the battery in my back. Like, that's the only reason why I'm still continuing, just to push forward. And I think when you lose a parent, that's the only choice that you have. You can't give up. You don't really have a chance to really slack off and take a break. How other people who have parents, they may be able to do that. Like, when you don't have a mother, or a father, or you don't have both, you don't really have a chance to do that. Like, there's really no room for you to, like, stop. So, I just wanted, just to encourage you ladies to continue, just really to push forward and, allow God to, just really heal that wound, because it is possible. Because I know, like, for me, like, the wound is healed. Like, I could talk about my mom freely and not feel anything, not feel any sadness, not feel any anger, not go back to how people may have treated me, when she passed away, or, like, when I was younger. I just really, like, allowed God to, just do the work in me, because it's definitely, like, possible. Like, he's really definitely able to, like, be that healer. And I know, like, for me, like, that's really, like, the only person, that was able to really get me through that grief, losing my mom, at such a young age. So thank you, ladies, for allowing me to share.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you so much. You sound, the way you went through your process sounds a lot like how I'm taking it. Like, I spent a lot of time prior to my mother passing away being worried about maintaining relationships and, how people perceive things that I have going on in my life. And once she passed away, and then, the smoke cleared, I guess, and, relationships started to fall apart, relationships started to build, I realized, like, I didn't do anything for this to happen. Because, like I said, when I say I shut down, I shut shit down. I didn't do nothing. My children were over here damn near fending for themselves some nights, eating noodles, because mommy wasn't cooking. Like, I shut down. So it's like, okay, well, something's working behind the scenes. There's something going on as to why these people are falling off, but then I have other people that are just popping up out of nowhere. And then, eventually I started to realize, like, this has been beyond my control the whole time. Even with my mother passing away, there was nothing nobody could have done about it. Right. All that was already pre-written. There was nothing I could have, even if she lived with me, like Crystal was saying, like, none of the decisions I could have made or changed would have changed the fact that her expiration date was July 31st, 2020. It was just a matter of, all right, how are y'all going to handle it now? Right. And, that's why I was telling Hannah, like, I don't harp too much and concern myself too much with the relationships that I have, because they've just been coming and going on their own. And I've always trusted my mother's judgment. Like, my mother, I was able to admit to her a couple years ago that all that advice that you told me about men, about friends, about life in general, from a teenager until an adulthood, and I thought you were bullshit, and I was able to tell her that you've been right all this time, you're always right. And ever since then, like, I listened to my mom like I was a little girl, even as a grown woman, because my mama was always right. And even right now, with her guiding me professionally, financially, with my kids as a mom, like, I still feel like she has a hand in what goes on in my household and how my children have been acting since she passed away. So just knowing that she still has so much power in my life and she's not here, I don't have to worry about really anything. And outside of relationships, I don't really worry about anything anymore. And honestly, that within itself has helped me deal with my depression and my anxiety that I already had. So I just have such a different perspective on life in general, and people just happen to fall in line with living life. So I feel it's so weird to say, but I feel like so much of a better person, and my journey in life is becoming so much clearer after my mother passed away. And it's like, you can't help but look at that in a positive way, because my mom wasn't no damn sacrifice.
Right.
So how else would, like, if this is how it was supposed to be, like, me thinking this way has kept me from having those moments, having more of those days where I'm stuck in the bed and not tending to my kids, not tending to my business. So my spirituality and my faith has grown significantly to the point where, like I said, I don't even worry about the relationships I have with anybody, whether it's family, friends, colleagues, business partners. It don't matter. I know my mother is going to weed, like I said, my mother is going to weed out the bullshit.
I agree. And, I know for me, like God, has sent me a sisterhood, and that's something, when my mom passed and, when I was going through the grief process, I didn't really have, anyone. So, now I'm really thankful, that God has definitely, like, sent me a circle, of women, that do understand, and they may not can't relate, but they do understand, and I think, that's just powerful, in itself, and that does show, God will send people, in your life that does care. They may not always understand, or like they may go through something similar, but he does send like people, in your life that does have his heart. And I know one thing for me, like when my mom passed, like and God, when I was dealing with just going through the healing process, like he just let me know, like and that this is something that I always hear like older people say, and like I never really truly understood it until like I got older. That everything, God does everything for his will, and sometimes we don't like God's will, and sometimes we don't understand it. And like when like people would say that, I'm just like, what are you even talking about? And like I said, like for years, like I blamed God, and the whole time, that wasn't even God's doing. Yes, it was like God orchestrated, just certain things to transpire after my mother's death, just to push me forward, and to push me closer to him. But God's will is very, very interesting from what we expect and what, we really look for. So like sometimes like I laugh and I'm like, God, you're really interesting, when you do things. And like sometimes when stuff happens that aren't good, like we don't understand why until we go through the healing process, and we see like, okay, Lord, I understand, now why you did this, because, like when you're going through, you don't understand it at that time. But yeah, like I'm, just really thankful to be, just where I am, not only naturally, but, spiritually as well. And, just with my relationship, with God, and just, I'm able to be around other women, and I don't have to feel less of a woman, because I, lost a parent. Because I know for me, a lot of the times, that's one of the reasons why I did, stay away from a lot of women. I didn't build friendships, or really network and make connections, even though I really wanted to, but it was just like, nah, I'm just not going to do that. So, like I'm very, just thankful that, God has taken me out of that place where I'm able to, connect with other women, you know, and talk and, you know, just share with other women and, you know, just be, you know, transparent. So, you know, I'm very, you know, just thankful to be a part of this conversation. When I saw the topic, I'm like, oh, this is going to, I want to hear what this is about. This seems like it's going to be good. So, like, I thank you ladies for just, you know, allowing me to speak.
Well, we appreciate you coming in and speaking and sharing your story.
Yes.
You dropped a lot of familiar gems, but some new ones, because, you know, you've been dealing with this a lot longer than I have. So I know I have a long, long road of trying to figure stuff out, trying to figure out life again, I guess. So you touched on a lot of good points. I really, really appreciate you speaking. And do you have Instagram? Because I want to connect with you, like, talk to you, like.
Yes, I do have Instagram. I actually have to put that in my bio, but I do have Facebook. Like, I'm on Facebook, like, a lot. So, like, I do have an Instagram, but I will put, like, my Instagram name up, and if, you know, both of you ladies or any of the other ladies in the room wants to follow me on there, or, you know, just both of those social media platforms, you know, you're more than welcome. And like I said, if you guys want to connect and exchange numbers, like, I have no problem, you know, doing that, helping someone else get through a process that I've been through. You know, I think that was one of the reasons why God allowed me, you know, to just be healed, you know, and set free from that process to help other women, because I understand, like, how hard and difficult, you know, just losing a mother, you know, just definitely can be, and just mother relationships in general, but, like, definitely losing a mom, like, it's harder than people realize, or, you know, people can think. So, yeah, like, I have no problem. Like, yeah, we definitely can connect.
Well, we are going to do absolutely that, ma'am. I'm going to definitely get back with you. Thank you so much for everybody that's listening. Rashina and Cuzzo, my cousin, is in here. Miss Beautiful Iris. If y'all wanted to speak or say anything, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. We've been on this conversation for almost 2.5 hours, y'all.
Yes. It's gotten hot and heavy.
I know, but I don't know about y'all. But just the fact that I got through the majority of this conversation without crying, I think that is showing some shit within itself.
Yes, I agree. I agree.
But yeah, I'm glad we did this.
Yes.
I appreciate you guys so much for tuning in. For everyone that spoke earlier and dropped off so far, like, I needed this. Like, I got with Tanisha and wanted to do it because I've had so much that I wanted to say and get off my chest the last almost 6 months that I needed an outlet. And I knew that there's other people that are like me. I'm not the only person who lost a mom, you know, so I wanted to do this for everyone to have a safe space, like Clubhouse says, to be able to say really how they feel about, you know, because when you're grieving or even when you're just angry about anything, like, your rational mind isn't completely there. So, like some of the things that I said earlier, like when I said I don't want to like people's pictures when they celebrate with their mom, like, to a normal person or to someone who didn't lose a parent,
right? They
might be like you're fucked up. Right. But to people like us
that know,
it's not
right.
Mean. Like, I don't mean it that way. It's just, it's a trigger, and I don't want to see it. So yeah, I'm glad we were able to do this. I appreciate y'all so much.
Thank you for having this discussion, because I'm just glad that when you reached out to me about doing this, I'm like, this was needed. I was like, this definitely was God, because I was like, I haven't talked about it. I haven't, like, besides my siblings, us talking about our own, you know, but I haven't publicly talked with anyone outside of my own siblings about how I'd been feeling, you know. So I'm glad that this was something that was needed.
Gotta get it out. Well, if nobody else has anything else they want to share, we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up. I am following everybody that has been in here because I feel like even if you popped in here, you must know somebody that's a motherless child, or you might be a motherless child. But I feel like if you popped your head in here, you connect in some way. So Make sure y'all follow me back too.
Yes, I'm following as well. Oh.
But I appreciate everybody so much, and hopefully we can have these types of chats more often.
Yes.
As the further we go without having our moms, we're gonna have a whole lot more to talk about. Yes. So yeah, let's stay connected, and I'm gonna see if we can get another one set up with a bunch of moderators, and we can make it another big thing. So
thank you everyone that tuned in to that discussion. As you can see, we went very, very deep. We shared a lot of things. So I hope that, you all got something from it. If you have any tips or things that you would like to share with me or Carmen about, or just share in general about, what you heard today and what you listened to today, feel free to reach out. You can DM Stardom 100 Radio on Instagram, or you can send an email to stardom100radio@gmail.com, and just let me know how this conversation made you feel, and if it helped you. If you recently lost a mother, let me know how this situation may have helped you out. And again, thank you for tuning in to Stardom 100 Radio. Be sure to follow us on Instagram. Be sure to follow myself, Tanisha Davis, on Instagram at Tanisha D. Davis. Also, you can be sure to follow Carmen on Instagram. It's at Carmen, Carmen at CarmenRoxanna. That's Carmen.Roxanna on Instagram. And you can also follow us on Clubhouse, me at Tanisha D on Clubhouse, and then Carmen on Clubhouse at Carmen Roxanna. That's CarmenRoxanna on Clubhouse. So thank you all for tuning into the show again, and we look forward to having more amazing topics on the show for you again as the year moves forward. And keep us in prayers during this time, that God will give us strength, that we will be able to just keep pushing, behind the loss of our mothers.